So guys, welcome back to the channel. This is the Ian West Network, and today I have a watch for you. So this is the Samsung Watch FE. If you're wondering where I got it, I did actually get this under Metro by T-Mobile. They're selling it for $99 on their website, and some of the stores in the city where I happen to be in carry it in stock. Now, I want to be transparent here. This watch is basically a reskin of the Samsung Watch 4. Yes, the 4. So for anyone out there wondering if this is newer or if it's better in terms of specifications of the 5, the 6, the 7, the Ultra watch, absolutely not. As a matter of fact, it only comes in 40mm for the Metro by T-Mobile brand also, though you can get it in 44, I believe, but that's more so if you buy it straight out through Samsung, Best Buy, or some type of store. Got to be transparent with you. Price tag was $99. After taxes and fees, about $127 after taxes, because it is a monthly bill to have a phone number on this watch. If you choose for whatever reason to cancel that number, you do have the option to do so. If you can just use the watch through the Samsung application that it comes with to begin with. So, with that being said, if this is a decent watch, how does it perform? How's the battery life? We're going to talk about my experience with it so far, though I will have a more in-depth review for you guys probably coming within the next 2 weeks. I have some other reviews that need to be done, some headphones and stuff, so I'm putting this on the back burner for a little bit, but I just wanted you guys to know it is a holiday season coming up, and some people just want to buy a watch. They may not want all of the bells and whistles, and I do think that this has enough features where for someone that's coming from a Fitbit to an actual smartwatch, they're probably going to like this a lot. With that being said, let's get right into it, and I'm going to test out this background because I switched it out. Anyway, review time. So right outside of the box, this is everything that it's actually going to come with. You have the USB cable for the watch itself. It is magnetic, as you can see right here. So all you have to do is just go ahead and snap this onto the back of the watch. Though the magnets aren't super strong, it is enough where you can just plug it up and it'll just start charging immediately. Well, my suggestion is if you don't want to use the wall outlet, use like a USB for your computer and just have this charging, so you'll be good to go right there. You do have your quick startup guide, which to be honest, I'm not even going to go through this because the Samsung application itself actually walks you through how to use it. Well, correction. The Samsung application shows you how to sync it, while when you first start up this watch, it walks you through the process of how to actually navigate the watch, so you're good to go right there. Now, just in case you missed anything, this is the box itself. The watch is going to be sitting right here. Unfortunately, it doesn't come with a large band. It only comes with this one right here, which is pretty small. It was already connected when I got this, or maybe the teller connected it themselves. I'm not too sure, but everything was already placed inside the box when I first purchased it, so it was good to go. So I'll just leave it like that. And right here, let me move this charger to the side. You actually have a little groove. Make sure you put your finger in there. You're going to pull this out. On the one side is the instructions. On the other side, it's going to have like the actual charger port itself for the this little piece right here to charge your watch. So just make sure you don't throw this box away because you are going to need the charger. It does come with one. I know that sometimes people don't really pay attention to these things, and you don't want to accidentally throw this away because you're going to end up having to buy a brand new watch if you do so. So let's actually talk about how the watch looks. Now, before we get into specifications, which I have a whole section for that part, that's what really matters, obviously, in this video. I just want to show you how it looks. Now, the original Watch 4 actually had these bands where it's like these little hooks that you pull and it pops out, while this one has these press hooks, which I do like the way they look. Granted, they did have to differentiate this watch some way, which is you have the little orange right here and this little blue, which I think that this is really cool. I like this band, though I do kind of wish it was a little bit thinner. Though, then again, it should have came with a large also, which, what does it cost? Maybe $5, $10 to go ahead and put a band inside of this for large wrists and smaller wrists. Granted, this is a 40mm watch. I do still feel like it's pretty tight. So even for my skinny wrist, I'm using the belt loop at about 3. 2 comfortably, sometimes 3 if I'm moving a lot more, but it really depends. Naturally, I do plan on switching this out for my own band eventually, which I'm going to show you guys the type of bands that it actually comes with in another video. But for right now, we're just going to talk about this. But if you look at the design, I think that this is actually very nice and very sleek. I like the way this looks. Now, from the watch, I want to say the Watch 4 and up is when Samsung pretty much solidified themselves as making the bezel this way. I'm not sure if this is thinner than the Watch 4 because I don't have it anymore, but this is a pretty thin watch for the most part. I do like the way it looks. Just want to just flip it around and let you guys see it. It's really nice. So for the person out there that is looking for, let's say, a Samsung watch, sometimes in life, and I actually agree with a lot of the reviews. I watched some reviews about this watch. This isn't worth the asking price regular if you compare it to other watches like the 5, the 6, the 7, and the Ultra watch for Samsung. Though I do want to say that the watch does perform just fine. The issue I had with the Samsung Watch 4 previously is that the processor, however they did the software, it was very, very, very laggy previously on the Watch 4 to the point where I just couldn't really experience the watch itself. So let me kind of show you. So for this one, I can actually swipe left and right. Oh, there we go. I can actually swipe left and right. And if you notice, there's not really any lag with the swiping. It actually works very, very well. The previous 4 model had a problem where whenever you swipe the watch, it just didn't feel very good. It didn't feel very responsive at all, and the battery drained pretty quickly. Also, this watch is currently at 92%. Now, to put in perspective how bad the battery life is on this watch, because remember, it's just a reskin of the Watch 4, what I'm noticing is that I charged the watch earlier today. Woke up, went to get my delivery for food with my wife. We're talking, when I say delivery, like a food delivery, right? We were outside for maybe 10 minutes tops. I put the watch on, powered it on. The watch was at 100%. By the time it's 10:14 now, it might have been 9 something, so the watch was on for about an hour or so. It's now currently at 92%, 91%. It just dropped a little bit. I don't know if you can see that, 91% right there. The battery life for this is not good at all. And keep in mind, because it's using cellular, because it does actually have a phone number on it through the Metro by T-Mobile company, it's going to kill the battery even more. So if you see this watch and it says, oh, it gives you 2 to 3 days of standby time and all that stuff or more, disregard that because it's absolutely not true at all. You're going to get about a day's worth of charge out of this. Maybe a full 24 hours or so if you leave it on, like sleep with it on and things like that. It just doesn't boast a good battery life in my opinion. Now, outside of that, all the other features that I personally use it for, like text messages and notifications, work perfectly fine on it. I'm actually upgrading from the Samsung Fit 3 because I have a Fitbit watch. That's the one I prefer. I had the Watch 5. I had the Watch 6. I stopped at the Watch 6. I did get the Watch 5 Pro and a couple variation models, which were cool and all, but I felt like the watches were too heavy. So, getting this, something that's more lightweight, I felt like it would have worked for me, but the small screen, I'm not going to say I'm a huge fan of that. I do feel like these watches should come in 44 minimum at this point because 40 is very, very small. I haven't seen a Samsung 40 watch, watch in a very long time. But again, it all depends on what it is that you want to use it for. And let's just go from there. I want to talk to you guys about some of the specifications now. Now, just in case anyone is wondering, this watch does support the Samsung Health application. In addition to that, we are going to go over the Samsung features like changing wallpaper, changing notifications, how to update the watch, etc., etc. I'm going to walk you guys through that also. And again, for anyone that's skipping to this part, I will have a full comprehensive review of how I feel about the watch after using it for about another 2 weeks or so. But for right now, let's just talk about this. Also, I do have a spec sheet showing the Watch 4 versus the Watch FE. It's pretty similar, if we're being completely honest here. Like I talked to you guys earlier, there will be some tweaks. Like I believe this has Bluetooth 5.3, so they did make some updates. So the spec sheet is a tad bit off, but outside of that, for the most part, it's pretty much the same. But anyway, let's go over this. So like I said before, you have the Samsung fitness tracking application, which when you sync this to this application and you have it synced to all your running and your walking, it is going to drain your battery. I did say earlier that the watch gets about 24 hours or so if you was to leave it on, but to be honest with you, after trying this feature and a few other things, I feel like the watch doesn't even have a 24-hour battery life. Now keep in mind, I'm coming from a Samsung Fit 3, and that's a Fitbit version of a Samsung watch, and that has about a good 6 days of battery life in it. Granted, it doesn't have all the features, but it does enough for most people, and it's under $100, so that tells you something. Anywho, you have your sleep study, so if you're sleeping, what's weird about this is I like the feature, but again, because of the battery life, you're probably going to end up carrying your watch charger around, especially if you work in like an office building. You have a desk, a USB or something like that. I would suggest carrying your charger just in case. You never know. You do have your heart rate alerts right here for the BPM. you have the irregular heartbeat. Now, my wife has a irregular heartbeat, so something like this would work very well for her personally. But she's an Apple user, so I actually have her using the Apple Watch, which I feel like is a little bit better in terms of getting the irregular heartbeat, especially when it comes to she's using a much higher end watch. You have the EKG, which almost every watch pretty much has that. It's pretty standard. It's obviously going to have your steps and so many different other features. So for the person out there that normally uses watches for exercise, don't you worry. This watch will work just fine in that regard because they all do pretty much the same thing. I do want to also say that it does have a vibrate and sound mode, so you can actually set your own ringtones, you can set your own wallpapers and things like that, or you can just keep it on vibrate if you choose to do so. Right here you have fall detection, which is very important. I haven't used it personally to see how it works. I don't really want to test out fall protection. It's one of the features where I'm glad that I have it, but I'm also glad that I don't have to actually test it out and use it, because that would mean that I'm in a situation where I'm hurt pretty badly. So just keep that in mind. Specifications. NFC. It has the same 1.8 gigahertz processor as the Watch 4. Remember, this one is Bluetooth 5.3, so there are some tweaks to it. I would have wished that it was 32 gigabytes, but for whatever reason, they kept it at 16. I'm assuming that they had a bunch of Watch 4s or something similar to that and just a bunch of parts and pieces, and they just wanted to get rid of them and rebranded the phone as the Watch FE and just added a different band. Right here, you have the size, 1.2, so it is a pretty small screen. Believe it or not, I think the Fitbit 3, the Samsung Fit 3 might be 1.6. I could be wrong about that, but the sharpness of the screen is pretty good, so don't get me wrong. You have your, I can't say half these words, I'm gonna be honest with you, sensors, electrical heart, impedance analysis, barometer for someone that needs that, bioelectrical impedance analysis sensor, accelerometer, I think that's how you say it. So it does have a bunch of different features. Let's see what else do they have. Audio and video. I don't think anyone's really going to use it for that. Now, I do use my watch to change songs when I'm scootering or riding a train or something like that. That's a different story. It says the connectivity. Honestly, it doesn't even make a difference because a lot of people, I apologize, I have bronchitis right now. I don't see a lot of people using this watch for long periods of time because of the sheer, just the battery life is just very, very lacking. I don't know why they would relaunch these watches without giving it a better battery life. The display is Super AMOLED, and they did switch the glass. So the Watch 4 actually had Corning Gorilla Glass right here, and they switched this one over to the Sapphire. I don't have an issue with it personally because I use Motorola phones. I use all types of different phones. I'm not big on the type of glass that they use because I always have tempered glass on my devices. And as long as it's reasonable, the touch is good and things like that, I can get past it. It may not be the best glass in the world, but it works very well. Now watch this part. 450 to 450 pixels on a Watch 4. This watch is years old. They actually lowered the resolution to 396 to 396 on the Watch FE. So you're actually selling an inferior product in terms of screen sharpness. On top of that, this is 530 PPI, while this one is 467. Now, what does that mean to the average person? Probably nothing. When you see both of these watches, you're not going to say, oh my gosh, it's 236 PPI higher. You're not going to really feel that way. You're probably not even going to notice it. And if you're coming from a smartwatch, like one of those third carrier companies, the ones that sell like the Chinese or Japanese watches and stuff like that, the off-brand, you're going to notice a huge jump in quality, in my opinion, in terms of just all the sheer features. I'm not saying that it has a better battery life because we always got to come back to battery life. It doesn't. But anyway, here's the available storage. Only thing I really use storage for is like for watch faces and things like that because you can customize them. And I normally just use my own custom wallpaper, which I'll show you guys how to do that in the next section. Now let's look at some of the reviews. Now, before we get to there, actually, no, let's look at this. It says battery life, 240 mAh, usage time up to 40 hours. I'm assuming they meant 40 hours, which this is factually not true. Now, if you turn this watch on and leave it on without being synced to another device, yeah, absolutely. It's going to last you 40 hours. But the moment you start using this watch, you put on your wrist, you start testing it, you get text messages, notifications, emails, my Pokemon Go, my Call of Duty, all my emails, the Ian West network, everything that I do drains this battery. And what I'm noticing is that on certain days, it might have its good days where I'll go about 40 or 50% through a work shift. I need you to understand, we're talking about work shifts. We're not talking about a full 12-hour day. We're not talking about a 24-hour day. We're talking about just going through a work shift. The battery life, I don't trust it enough to not carry the charger, and that says a lot. And I don't normally say that on videos, but it is a nice looking watch though, I'll give it to you. Now watch some of the reviews. This is next to useless. The life of a charged battery is just over 24 hours, so it needs daily charging, and that is true. When I had the Watch 5 Pro or other devices, I could get at least about 3 to 4 days worth of battery life, and I did not turn the watch off at all. This one, you will be powering down your watch 9 times out of 10, and if you want to keep it charged for the next day. This is grossly inferior to a much cheaper Chinese smartwatch. Remember, I just said that a moment ago. It is inferior in terms of battery life, not specifications though, and like how it actually navigates and operates software, which lasts over a week when fully charged. I was warned that so-called smartwatches require frequent charging, but my experience, yada yada. After 45 years of using a proper Seiko watch, I have now reverted to using Chinese watch. So this person doesn't like this watch to the point where they got a Chinese watch. Now, my suggestion to anyone to avoid this type of fate, especially if you have extremely high expectations for the watch, is to get either the 44 version, which is going to last longer, or just get a 5 or 6. Get a watch 6. You could probably find them online. I actually found watch 5s on OfferUp at one point for about $100 or so. I bought 2 watch pros, believe it or not. And I wasn't really a big fan of the crazy bezel size because it's a big watch. But outside of that, they perform admirably when it comes to battery life. This one just doesn't perform very well. Anyway, you're going to have good reviews. You're going to have bad reviews. Most of the bad reviews are going to be about the battery life. The issues with lag that the watch previously used to have, they did take care of. So I am happy about that. I'll just leave it like that. So let's go on to the next section then. All right, so I am currently in the watch right now. As you guys can see, I'm screenshotting this in real time, so you can see me doing that. And you can actually see the watch face right here. Hold on, here we go. There's a little dog face, the watch face. I know my camera glare, but you can tell that I'm currently using it. Now, the reason why I'm showing you this is because there are a bunch of features in the Samsung application itself. Like I said, I am going to go over some of the health features and stuff in a different video to see how it performs when I kind of, break the battery in to see if it's a lot better than what it is initially outside of the box. So you have watch faces. If you go ahead and click that, you have analog. You have so many different options down here that you can scroll from. You can scroll left and right depending on which ones you use. I know there used to be an application that you can use that actually allowed you to download more watch faces, but for the most part, I personally always go to the Photos application itself. Let me show you what it does. So when you edit that, I normally tap this down here, and you have the options from changing the font colors. You can change what these do. I normally leave battery life up there, steps. I add a heartbeat instead, and I just add a bunch of different features. You have events, media controls, voice recorders, reminders, just all this full customization right here. Now, of course, each watch face does operate a little bit differently, so they're not all even. Some watch faces don't have customization that allows you to actually change what you see on the screen itself, like fonts and things like that. So I do implore you guys to just kind of just walk yourself through it and familiarize yourself. Of course, during the update, I'll have a dedicated section for you guys to actually show you how to edit this application itself. But for right now, let's get through this video. It's already like 20 minutes already. If you go to watch settings right here, you have the option of turning on notifications, which that's what I do. Normally I show alerts when the phone is in use regardless. So what that means is, let's say you're talking on the phone or you're playing on the phone or you're doing something, the notification won't come up on the watch because you're looking at the phone. But when you lock it and put the phone down, or if you lock the phone, notifications will pop up on the wrist. You have the option to turn that on and off. You can have mute notifications on phone. If we tap the advanced section, you can have it where your watch actually reads text messages out loud, which I don't suggest. It doesn't sound very good. Like when you hear Siri or Google speak, it's not as clear and concise as that. It's really robotic and just run-on sentences, so I don't really suggest that. You have the options which show it details, so it'll show more information on your wrist itself and allow you to actually click into the application. There are like preset tones that you can use in this watch to send text messages back to other people. But again, that's for the person that is really big on using their watch for mainly everything that they do. In addition, this 40mm screen isn't very big, so I don't think that the touches and swipes are going to be as accurate as people think that they are. You might make some errors here and there, but you can have some preset text messages to send. I have it set where every single application, it gets notifications. That's another reason why it drains the battery. So for the person out there trying to make the most of this, let's say you just want messages, WhatsApp, and things like that. All you got to do is just highlight the ones that you want. Right here, it says allow. I want to go ahead and allow that anyway, because I don't mind all of the applications popping up on my wrist. That's one of the ways that I normally test the battery life, because if you're constantly getting applications throughout a busy workday, emails, things like that, and it all could be personal stuff, it doesn't have to be work stuff, you can get a accurate assessment of how often you have to charge your watch. For me, I charge it every night. I can use it throughout the entire day for the most part, and then I charge it at night. For some people, they may get so many notifications that they might have to charge their phone while currently at work or before they leave work. And this isn't a fast charging watch also, so just keep that in mind. It actually charges pretty slow. I think I was at about 60% or something, or 50-something percent. And then when I watched the watch, when I watched it, it tells you how much battery time it needs to fully charge. It's at about 40 minutes from there. So it's very, very slow charging. Like I said, you have the quick responses right here. As you can see, you can change those up and customize them if you want to. Let's go over a couple more things. You have the always on display. I'm going to tell you this now. If you guys leave always on display on in this watch, it will kill this watch. And this is coming from a guy that uses a Samsung Fitbit 3. That has a phenomenal battery life. I don't think there's a watch out there at all in the smartphone world in terms of Samsung or Apple that has a battery life that good. And that battery life dies with always on display on. So you know it's going to die with this one. You have the option to raise it when it wakes. So when you lift it up, it wakes. If you touch the screen, it'll wake. You can have it where screen timeout. So let's say that you lift your wrist, for example, and you're reading something. You'll have 15 seconds before it actually blacks out. Personally, I say leave it on for about 30 seconds or a minute. Apologize, bronchitis again. But it's really up to you, the person, and how you feel about your watch. I do that customization for myself because I know I read things slowly and I'd be lazy. I'm always doing things around me. So I want to be able to have the watch highlighted still and turn away and then come back and still be highlighted. But of course, that does also kill the battery too. You can change the font size. You have touch sensitivity, like if you're wearing gloves, for example. I actually have touch gloves that I can use for this watch that works just fine, but I more so buy the gloves because it's wintertime. I'm scootering outside, it's freezing cold. I know it sounds crazy. Probably why I have bronchitis right now and I wasn't wearing enough clothes, but it is what it is. You do have vision enhancements, which is higher contrast, higher color correction, which changes the color inversion for someone that might have issues with color filters and stuff. So the watch does have most of the customization that the current Samsung watches have. You just might be missing some features here and there, but for the average person that just wants a decent smartwatch to work for them, I don't see this as being a bad purchase. Outside, again, of the battery life. If they would have fixed that battery life, I think that this would have been a huge sell for a lot of people. But again, I'm not going to go through everything in this application right now. This is enough for video purposes. And I think that, yeah, it's a hard sell, kind of. I got to be honest. It was a hard sell. Even when I was in the store, I was looking at it like, it is a Watch 4 rebranded. And I remember the Watch 4. But I said, for video purposes, let's do this. So in conclusion, my experience hasn't been too bad for the watch for the most part outside of the battery life. Swiping, touches work just fine. The features on the watch, I honestly don't even use all the features on the watch to begin with, if I'm being completely honest with you guys. I mainly just use it for steps. I use it for text messages. I use it for notifications to be able to answer and hang up calls. The heart rate sensor is a nice addition. Obviously, most watches come with that. You have your EKG stuff, irregular heartbeats. You have a lot of features here. But if you're a person that has true health issues, like you're really trying to monitor a lot of your health issues, this can do it. But on the flip side of that conversation, let me even this a little bit. Getting the more newer Samsung watches would be the better choice. But if you're a Metro by T-Mobile customer like me, I prefer buying things under my carrier that's reasonably priced. So that's one of the reasons why I brought this up in the first place. I don't think it's bad for the asking price. I just think it's bad because they decided to not really tweak the features that needed to be tweaked to make this a definite purchase for new smartphone users. Like if this was my first smartphone from Samsung, I would be disappointed on the battery life alone and I wouldn't trust them as a company. But because I had so many of their watches previously that work very well, that's why I know, okay, you know, they could have did better, but you know, they're trying to sell you something that's still affordable. They're trying to, similar to what Apple does. Apple sells older iPhones for discounted prices years later under prepaid carriers so that you can still experience it for the next couple years and you'll still have a decent experience. Most smartwatches that you find, whether you're going to Ross or Burlington or even looking on Amazon, are not going to have the smoothness or functionality of this watch for the asking price. It's not that you can't find something better for $100 or $120 something. I'm saying for the asking price, Samsung does come with, you know, pretty much the rounded package where the watch doesn't really disconnect from the application or the phone. You don't have to worry about third-party stuff if you don't choose to. It's nice. It's nice to have. But anyway, I am going to review it again when I do it within an ad. These bugs like messing up my videos. Anyway, like and subscribe, guys. And I will see y'all in the next video.